Our next presenter right now is Albert Garza. He's been involved in government procurement in both federal and local levels for 32 years. He started at General Service Administration as a presidential management intern in 1988 and held a variety of positions with GSA, Federal Supply Service in Fort Worth and San Diego. In 2000, he became an economic development specialist and a contract officer for the City of San Antonio's Economic Development Department. In 2007, he returned to the GSA as a small business specialist located in Fort Worth, Texas. Albert Garza.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I don't know if I can get a thumbs up from the host. I'm not able to see anybody on the screen. Can you hear me or not? Have an audio check.
Yes, hello? We can hear you.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be at this meeting virtually. Although while I was waiting to speak, I was thinking about if I had my druthers, I'd prefer to be in Norman, Oklahoma. And I usually, for doing this event for the last few years, I always like to come out of the super air-conditioned building at the Embassy Suites Hotel and come out into the warm Oklahoma sun. I won't be able to do that this year, but hopefully I can do that next year. And I look forward to meeting with you all as soon as possible. Anyway, what I would like to do is talk to you about the new things and the old things that are doing that. And let me see. Can you hear me a little bit better? Am I still echoing? Let me just do a test. 1, 2, 3. Is this okay? A little bit better?
Albert. I think.
Go ahead.
I think your laptop or your computer speakers are still on, so we're picking it up through your headset mic and your computer mic.
Okay. It shows that. Let me see. Let me just check something else here. Let me do a sound check. Is this a little bit better, or is it coming a little bit through, or is
it's the same?
Oh, it's the same. Let me do this. Let me see. What does it sound like now? Is it still an echo or not?
No echo at that point.
Oh, you lost the echo? Okay. Okay. If you like to, I can do it. The only reason why I was not using a headphone earlier is because I have a construction crew across the street, but it looks like they've stopped for lunch, so that's great. And then every once in a while, hopefully my dog won't start barking. Right now she's sleeping, so hopefully she'll be okay. If there are other sound problems, feel free to tell me by chat or whatever. And if not, just chime through. So is this okay?
This sounds a lot better. Thank you.
Okay. I'll talk into my speaker in my laptop. Anyway, the other thing I would like to do also is let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. And let me go ahead and do that. You might see me actually again. But what I would like to do is share my screen, and hopefully once you do that, let me go ahead and switch over to my PowerPoint presentation. And I won't be able to see y'all or see the chat screen, but I can see my screen. Is the audio still there or not?
Audio is still good, and I'll watch the chat for you and relay any.
Okay, please do. Thank you very much. So what I would like to do is spend the next hour giving you a quick orientation about what's new and what's old about the GSA multiple awards schedule. And so I hope you don't mind. Let's go ahead and start with it. Again, as I always like to mention when I do my presentations, is I always like to use screenshots from the GSA.gov website. The reason for this is because I would like to show you how to find the information about becoming a GSA scheduled contractor. And so I hope you don't mind. I do also have standard PowerPoint slides, but I do want to show you screenshots. And so what I would like to do right now is go ahead and show you how to start the process of becoming a GSA scheduled contractor. And what I would like to do is, if you are going to look up who are the current contractors on GSA schedule, or if you want to find out how to become a GSA scheduled contractor, what you really want to do is start at the GSA.gov website. So this is what it looks like. And when you do come to this website, what you want to do is quickly scroll down to the very bottom. And when you get to the very bottom, in the lower right-hand corner, the screen, you'll notice that I've already, hopefully you can see my cursor that I'm moving around on the screen. You can come to the tools section, and in the tools section, I already have it highlighted. There's a web link here that says e-library, and what you want to do is click on the e-library to go to the next screen. When you do that, you come to what's called the GSA e-library, and this is how contractors and federal agencies look for the 15,000 GSA scheduled contractors that are out there. There's a lot of different ways to search for those contractors, but for our purposes this morning, over on the right-hand side of the screen, you might notice that there's a box that's called scheduled contracts, and then inside there's a hypertext link that I already have highlighted called View Scheduled Contracts. So what you want to do is click on that. When you do that, you come to a screen that's only been in existence for the last couple of weeks. This is rather new. If you had come to this screen a long time ago, about a year ago, you would have seen about 36 different programs listed on here, but now there's only 11. There's actually only 10 federal supply schedules. There's also a link here to the blanket purchase agreements, or BPAs for short. As you might notice, 9 of the programs are managed by the VA. I'm not going to be talking about the VA programs today, but if you'd like to, or if you have any questions about, selling to the federal government, medical supplies or dental supplies or pharmaceuticals or healthcare staffing services, feel free to call me. And a little bit later in my presentation, I will give you my email and phone number, and I can walk you through. Of course, the VA also has their own resources available, and they can help you on their programs. But today I would like to just talk about the multiple award schedule, or MAS. As you might remember, there used to be 24 federal supply schedules that GSA managed, but now there's only 1 schedule. And the great thing about this is that now, as I used to joke a long time ago, is that if you sold bathtubs and IT equipment, you would have to have 2 GSA schedules. But now you only need to have just 1 scheduled contract. And so it's called the multiple award schedule. So if you want to find out who are the contractors or what's the program all about, all you have to do is click on where it says MAS, and then you can click onto where it is in there. So when you do that, you'll come to the new multiple award schedule. And the really big difference that it's here is I'm going to go ahead and highlight this first sentence here on this website. So let me go ahead and go and do that. The only big difference is that we've divided up the multiple award schedule into 12 large categories, and and then there's about 83 subcategories, and then there's something called special item numbers, or SIN numbers. And this is significant because when you're getting ready to do the paperwork for a GSA scheduled contract, what you have to do is make sure that you know what the category is and the subcategory is, because that will tell you what type of paperwork you'll need, and I'll show that to you a little bit later on in the presentation. But what I would like to do is point out to you, and hopefully you can see my cursor. When you look at the difference of it, it's just right over here on the screen. Anything to the left of the hyphen or the dash is the category. Anything to the right of the dash or hyphen is the subcategory. And then right below the 2 gray boxes is what we call the special item number, or the old category number. And so this is something that you'll see. Let me go to another slide. So let me just scroll down to the next one and show you what they look like to give you a better idea. What I've done is gone to the category for furniture and furnishings. And then so you can see that over on the left-hand side of each hyphen, you can see where it's, let me go back a little bit. Sorry about that. You can actually see the category, and then to the right, you can see the different subcategories. In this case, flooring or furniture services or healthcare furniture or household dormitory and quarters furniture. So I just wanted to give that to you. So what I'm going to do is actually go really quickly and show you the different categories and subcategories to give you an idea of what's included in the GSA schedule, multiple award schedule. So here's facilities, the category facilities. And I might want to also point out to you that in this particular category, this is where you would find janitorial firms that are doing complete facility maintenance, so they would be in this category. So let's go on to the next one, is furniture and furnishings. So you'd find people here that do everything from carpet to wall art to actual furniture that might be in any type of work setting. And so let's go on to the next category. That would be human capital. One of the big subcategories in this area, of course, is temporary help services. So that's what you'll find in this area. But if you do a lot of personnel-related work, you're also going to be in the human capital category. Let's go on to the next one, is industrial products and services. I always like to point out in the industrial products and services, let's say if you sell products that are related to janitorial work, if you're doing the products for janitorial work, you're going to be in this category. But if you do the service for janitorial work, you'll be on that first category called facilities. So let's go on to the next category. Next one is IT. So everything that's related to IT and telecommunications, you'll find in this category. As you might remember, this is the largest category at the GSA schedule. It usually does about $13 to $14 billion worth of business. Of course, there's also a lot of contractors. Out of the 15,000 contractors that we have available on the multiple award schedule, about 5,000 are just in this one category. So it's a hyper-competitive area. Next up is office management. This would be your standard office supply kind of stores, or also your document preparation contractors, or copier machines and stuff like that. You'll find that into this category. Next up is professional services. Everything that under the sun that's might be considered a professional services is what you would find in here, and that goes all the way from marketing and public relations to management consultants to people that do translation and that type of services and stuff like that. Next up is scientific management and solutions. A lot of people don't realize, but we also do buy laboratory animals for laboratories to use their scientific experiments in. Hopefully it's everything ethical, but anyway. Next up is security and protection. In this category, this is where you'll find security guard firms and anybody that might be related to doing any law enforcement type of function. And this is also a very large category. It does about $3 to $4 billion worth of business every year. Next up is transportation and logistics services. I might want to point out to you that because I know that there's some charter services in Tulsa. You would actually find those type of air charter services in transportation of things, even though they're not transporting things, they're actually transporting people. But that's where we put it in this particular category. Next up is travel, and this is for regular federal travel or lodging, and if you want to do a travel agent's type of services, you would be in this category. And then last but not least is what we call a miscellaneous category, and this is things like clothing, and then musical instruments and boards and flags. And I hope you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and use flags as my example. I'm going to pretend that I'm a flag company here in Oklahoma, and I want to find out how to sell flags, military flags, and other types of pennants to the federal government. So what I want to do is I want to go back to the GSA schedule contract, and I want to find, I know that I'm going to be in the miscellaneous flag category, and so I've already highlighted on here where I can actually find that. You might notice over here on the far right, I'm almost sort of like in the middle of the website, and so this is where you would find miscellaneous and flags. And then if I want to find the contractors, what I'm doing is using my cursor arrow to circle the category number. So I'm going to click on that number, and so I can actually go to the contractors. Excuse me. So I always like to point out this is the actual schedule. You can notice that over on the upper left-hand corner of the table, we actually tell you how many contractors worldwide are in this particular category. Our special item number, there's 72 contractors. If you look at the table, you might notice that they're in alphabetical order. What I would like to do is scroll down so you can actually see the entire group of contractors. So let me go ahead and do that right now. When I do that, let me just point out a couple of things that you want to do is when you become a GSA scheduled contractor, you have to realize that GSA gives you a whole lot of free advertising. And you can actually find that advertising on here. And you might also notice that sometimes these contractors don't take full advantage of the advertising we provide to them. Let me just point out some of the advertising, if I may. Over here on the left-hand side of the screen, if you were to click on any of these contractors' names, you would go to another web page, and that's where you can find a link to these companies' private websites. And so that's one way that you can advertise on your own proprietary website. Second way, excuse me, is over here on the right-hand side, the two columns over on the right, you see these little text boxes in the second column from the right. On these text boxes, this is where you can find the actual price list for any of these contractors, and we'll do that in just a second. And then over here on the far right-hand side, you can see that there's something called GSA Advantage. GSA Advantage is very much like Amazon.com, but for the federal government, and we're going to look at that in just a second. But let me also point out here on the third column from the right is the social economic status. This is significant because especially at a time like this when we're approaching the end of the fiscal year, which ends on September 30th, federal agencies will come to the GSA scheduled contracts and they'll look for small businesses especially because what happens is, as you might know, all federal agencies have a small business goal to meet. And if they're not meeting their small business goals, usually their boss will be coming into their supply or contracting officer's office and telling them, hey, we need to quickly find small businesses that we can spend the rest of our money before the end of the fiscal year. So what happens is contracting officers will come to this list, and what they can do is they can come over here to the center. And let's say if they're looking for women-owned businesses, they can click on women-owned business and press go. And then this list of 72 contractors will probably go down to about 20 or 25 contractors. And then they can find a woman-owned business that might be near where their location is at. And then they'll go with that. And so that's one way that you can do it. The other way to do it is you can also come to this website and you can click all over here where it says city-state. At the city-state top of the column. And if you do that, it's going to put it in city-state order. So let me go ahead and do that right now and show you what it looks like. When I do that, the system already knows that I'm coming in from Texas, where I'm located, and so it inverts the alphabet. So that's why you see Wisconsin up at the very top and New York at the very bottom. And then you might notice that over here, just north of the New Yorks, you might notice that there's no Oklahoma-based firms that sell flags. And so this is a plug for any flag makers or flag manufacturers or flag stores in the Oklahoma area. You might want to enter this market because what's going to happen is if they don't find a local provider, they're probably going to have to go to Texas and stuff like that. So I hope you don't mind. I already have highlighted a Texas-based company. It's called Eagle Flag Products. And the reason why I always like to pick on them is because they're a woman-owned business, but you might also notice that they're located in Waverly, Texas, which is a small little town that's in between Austin and San Antonio. The reason I always like to bring this up is because I always like to make the point that GSA scheduled contracts are not just for large city companies. They're also for small business companies. And when you are living in a small town, you can have a GSA scheduled contract. And if anybody has ever visited Waverly, Texas, it's a very nice Texas Hill Country town. Usually people go there so they can swim in the local swimming hole called Jacob's Well. So it's a nice little area out there. But this is a small company, a woman-owned firm, and they have a GSA scheduled contract. So if I want to find out about this contractor, I can come over here to this little text box for this company, and I can click on the text box so I can look at their price list. And the reason I want to look at their price list is because if I want to become a GSA scheduled contractor, there's no guarantee that I'm going to make money. I have to compete against these current contractors in order to get money coming to me. So I do want to look at their price list and see what they offer and see if I can be competitive with these current contractors, because there's no reason for me to go through all that paperwork that GSA is about to put me through if I'm not going to make money. So what you do is we do give you the capability to study everybody's price list, and so you can see what Eagle Mountain, or what they call Eagle Mountain Flagpole, and of course they have a different name locally than they call themselves Eagle Flag Products. So you can see that they sell, excuse me, I should have got a drink of water before I started talking. I apologize about that. Anyway, you can see that they sell not only U.S. flags, but state flags and military flags. And so what I want to do is I scroll down their price list. You can see that they have a lot of different customers across the federal government. As a matter of fact, and one of the reasons why I want to pick them out is because just last year, they sold over $20,000 worth of flags to the executive office of the president, and a lot of them were military flags. So if you ever watch any news reports from the White House, and if you see a military flag in the picture, it's probably coming from this woman-owned firm here in Texas. But I also like to point out on their price list, notice here that they say that they're advertising on GSA Advantage, and we'll go there in just a second, but they also advertised at DoD FedMall. And this is a buying platform that's sponsored by the Defense Department. And when you become a GSA scheduled contractor, you can apply to a DoD activity and see if they might want to include you on FedMall. It's just another way of marketing. So let me keep on going down to their price list. The reason why I always like to stop at this page is because the name of the game in GSA schedules is discounts. And so when you come to each company's price list, always look for numbers 6, 7, and 8. We give you instructions for how you organize your price list. And so numbers 6, 7, and 8 is always significant because those are 3 types of discounts that you can find on here. So let's talk about this contractor. Number 6 in this case, you can see that they have a net discounts. These are what we call basic discounts, and you can see that in their description here, they already say that they include that basic discount in the prices that you already find at GSA Advantage, and we'll see that in just a second. But also notice here on number 7 will always be the quantity volume discounts. And you can see that if any customer comes in with like a order of 50,000 to almost 100,000, they can get an extra 1% off. And if it's over 100,000, they're going to get an extra 2% off. Number 8 will always be the prompt payment terms. Now you can see that this contractor has no prompt payment terms, but that's something that you might want to consider, especially if one of your competitor has a prompt payment term, and you might want to match their prompt payment term. So that's not the deciding factor when you're competing head to head with some other contractors. So I just wanted to point that out. And then let's go back to the GSA website. And now I'm going to actually show you how they advertise at GSA Advantage. And so what I want to do is click over here for Eagle Flag products at their GSA Advantage link. So let's go ahead and do that. When I do that, you might notice right off the hand, I've already highlighted for you, they have over 1,000 products on GSA Advantage. So they have their complete catalog on here. And I might want to point out to you, this woman-owned firm, they've had their GSA scheduled contract for the last 14 years. And over that 14-year period, they've already registered over $800,000 worth of sales. So that's about $60,000 or $65,000 per year. So they're doing really well on their GSA scheduled contract. And you can see that they're using all the free advertising that we give them quite to effect. And like I said, last year they had a rather large order from the White House from their flags. So in this particular case, I have a drop-down menu over here on the right-hand side. I'm going to ask it to give me all the products that they have that are the price from low to high. So I'm going to click on that. When I do that, I go to one of their listings, and I'm just using this as one of the examples. Remember, they have over 1,000 products. So I'm not going to show you all 1,000 products at this time, but we can all relate to an American flag, 3 by 5 feet for outside use, and they have a price of about $21 for a flag, which is a pretty good price. And so you can see that they also do other flags, and so here's another one, a U.S. Jack's flag, and of course they have a whole line of military flags and other pennants and stuff like that. And then they also have all the accoutrements of a flag, like a flagpole or an eagle or a spear or anything else like that. So they offer a whole full line of anything that goes along. So you can see why they're making money on GSA schedule. So they have a lot of things. So if I wanted to compete against this company, I know that this would be one of my top competitors. And so I want to make sure that I can actually compete against this company if I have to go head to head with them. So let's assume that you've made that decision and said, oh yeah, I can probably compete against this company and the other companies on schedule. What you want to do is go back to the GSA schedule page, and then you might notice that over here right underneath the title of the program, there's 2 rectangular boxes. One says GSA contracts, the other one says vendors. What you want to do is click on the box that says vendors. Now, of course, it's sort of mislabeled here. It says that you're going to go to FedBiz Ops, and as we all know, that's the old a website where you can find federal solicitations, but this is actually going to take you to beta.sam.gov. So let's go ahead and click on the box that says vendors. And when you do that, you actually come to beta.sam.gov. And then what you might want to do is this is the top of the solicitation. And so what we want to do is scroll down. And when we scroll down, we find that this solicitation actually has about 17 files. And I always like to stop right here and make sure that people don't go into hives or break out into hives, because when they see about 17 files, they think that this is almost like an IRS form, and it's too complicated to do. So, but I always like to point out to people that you don't have to do all 17 files. And that's the reason why we were looking at the categories earlier, because now that I know that my category is miscellaneous, I just have to look at the miscellaneous category file. I don't have to look at all the other files. I'm going to point out and highlight all you really need of most contractors will need about 5 of these 17 files. So let me tell you which of the 5 files you need. And so let me just go and highlight that for you. So, and this is an oddity of the solicitation that we have at beta.sam right now. They invert the files, so that's why you're looking at file number 16 at the very top and file number 1 is at the very bottom. I don't know, that's just the way the system does it right now, but let's go ahead and start at the very bottom, in this case at the very top for file number 16. That's going to be one of the files you're going to need. So out of the 5 files, it's file number 16. SF stands for Standard Form 30 Attachment. It's not that long of a file, so it's just a reading file. you have to read about all the different changes that are going on with this solicitation. Next up is file number 15, available offerings. Interesting thing about this file, it's actually an Excel file. So there's only 14 worksheets that you have there, or spreadsheets. And so all you have to do is, this is information about your category numbers and stuff like that. So it's really just a reference file. Next up is file number 14, regulations and corporate reference. I'm not actually going to go into this file, but I want to bring it up to your attention. As you might assume, this is the regulations that are involved. There's about 140 pages of regulations that you have to read about. So it's pretty dry reading, so that's the reason why I'm not going to talk about it this morning, but it is one of the files that you need. So you need those 3 top files, file 16, file 15, and file 14. So let's go ahead and scroll down. And as I scroll down, you might notice that here's the category specific files. And like I mentioned to you earlier, I'm going to be in the miscellaneous category. So I'm going to have to pull out file number 8. And so that's one of the files that I'll need. And then if I scroll down towards the bottom, I find file number 1, and I need that one. That file by itself is about 140 pages longer or thereabouts. And I'm going to actually open up this file because I do want to talk about some of the issues that you need to be aware of if you want to become a GSA scheduled contractor. So let's go ahead and click on solicitation, and let's go ahead and go and look at that. But before we do that, let me just recap what I just told you about this. And again, and I see that we have a lot of PTAC counselors, OBAN PTAC counselors in the audience. So I want to make sure that you are fully aware of this when you advise your clients. What you might want to do is tell them that most contractors trying for a GSA schedule need about 5 files out of the 17 that are available. And just remember to tell them that they need file number 1, file number 14, file number 15, and 16. And then they're going to pick from number 2 to number 13 another file that's specific to their category. Now, of course, if they're in 2 different categories, then they might need 2 additional files. But normally, it's each contractor are probably going to need at least 5 files that they need to do out of the 17. So let's go ahead and go to the solicitation now. So you can see that we're on refresh number 3 on this solicitation. I might want to point out to you that normally we refresh our solicitations about every 6 months. So that's something that you might want to watch for. And that deals with the kind of the paperwork you might also have to do. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to highlight certain pages, and using my cursor arrow, you might notice at the very top of the page, I'm showing you that the entire electronic file is about 146 pages. I'm on electronic file page number 2. A little bit later on, when I scroll through this, you're going to actually see the page numbers over here on the bottom. But at least you know everything that I'm talking about is just what I call the instructions part of the solicitation, and it's only about 11 pages. But it will give you a roadmap of exactly what you have to do if you want to become a GSA scheduled contractor. So I'm going to highlight areas that are effective to people that are trying out for a GSA scheduled contract. So you might notice that we, in our solicitation files, we will actually give you the web links that you'll be able to go to different parts to do the paperwork for a GSA schedule. So that's what you'll see on this page. So let me go to the next page. Now we come to what's called the instructions applicable to all offers, and so it's known as SCP-FSS 001, and so you do want to study this, and you can see that here it does tell you to read the entire solicitation document, and so we do. The other thing you might notice is over here, notice this blue hypertext link down here. The reason why we have this here is so that people can click on them and quickly go to the gsa.gov website. Now, a little bit later, I'm going to show you actually how to find this website. But if you want to, remember that you have these hypertext links that are embedded into this electronic file. So you can actually jump to the gsa.gov website straight from this electronic file. Let's keep on going down. I might want to point out to you that when you're making an offer to GSA, there's 2 ways that you can offer your prices. There's something that's called transactional data reporting, and if there's any questions later, I can answer that about transactional data reporting. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way, something called commercial sales practice format. So it's up to you on how you want to propose your pricing. There's pros and cons to how you do that, and if you like to, we can discuss that a little bit later on. Let's keep on going down and look at some of those. One of the areas that you'll have to do is called Section 1 Administrative Contract Data. What you have to do is you have to do some preliminary stuff. There's something called a Pathway to Success online training, and you might notice that there's the hypertext link here, at the Vendor Education Center, so you can actually find where it's at if you want to. The second thing you have to do is something called the readiness assessment. And again, you can see the hypertext links right below it where you can actually find the information that you're looking for. Next on, if you want to try for a GSA scheduled contract, you have to give us 2 years worth of financial statements. They can either be audited or unaudited. So that's something that you have to do. And then if you're a large business, you have to do a small business subcontracting plan. But hopefully in the audience, most of us are small businesses. And so this is something that you don't have to do, but I just wanted to point it out to your attention. Might notice that at the very bottom of the page, notice that we're on page 3 of 141. And so we're only going to go to page 11 on instructions, and that's where you might want to look at that. So I'm just going through the instructions part of it. The other thing you might want to know, and we can talk about this also later in our presentation, if you want to use a consultant, if you want to pay a consultant to do all the work for you, you have to make sure that you fill out an agent authorization letter. You have to tell us what that agent can do for you. And so that's that part of that. And then if you're in the there's something called Section 508 standards that deals with ADA requirements, especially in regards to websites and stuff like that. And so if you are dealing with that, you have to make sure that you abide to the Section 508 standards if you're a GSA scheduled contractor. Let's go on to the next page. If you're offering us products, you might notice that there's something called the Trade Agreements Act. We can't buy things from China. We can't buy things from Russia or Cuba or North Korea and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you're always selling products that are in compliance with the Trade Agreements Act. And then when you do that about the compliance about the Trade Agreements Act, there's something called a letter of commitment or letter of supply, and we give you a template on how to do that. And then last but not least, also realize that the federal government has to buy from mandatory sources. Would be like National Industries for the Blind or National Industries for the Severely Handicapped. And sometimes they're known by the name of Ability One or Unicor or Source America. And so those are their brand names. But normally it's called the Ability One program. And this tells you about the mandatory sources that you have to deal with. Next up is Section 2, the technical proposals. Notice that there's 4 different factors that you have to do. And so the first factor is factor 1, corporate experience. And then I'm not going to go through it, but you can see that we actually give you instructions for how you tell us about your corporate experience. But I just wanted to point that out to you. Next up is factor 2 is known as past performance. Now, on the solicitation here, it's going to actually refer to 3 things, but one of the things has gone away, and so there's only 2 ways that you can tell us about your past performance. If you already are a federal contractor, whenever you perform on a contract, there's something called a Contractor Performance Assessment Reporting System, or CPARS for short. If you do have that available, then you can just tell us that those are available, and then the contracting officer at GSA will go to the CPARS system and look up your reports and see if customers like you or not. The second way that you can do it is, let's go down to the next page. There's something called, if you want to, you can actually, if you have no CPARS reports, then all you have to do is make a 1-page document, and then you're going to give us about 3 to 5 references. And then down over here on the bottom, you might notice what we are expecting you in terms of the information about your references. And then what will happen is when you make an offer to GSA, we're going to call those 3 to 5 references and ask them if they love you as a company. And then if we get a good report, then we'll let you into the system. So that's the other way. The other thing that you might not see up here is the old way to do this. There used to be something called the Open Ratings Report, where you would have to pay to get a survey done of your past customers. That's gone away for the last 10 months. And so this will probably be dropped out of the solicitation pretty shortly because there were some stragglers still coming through. But this is no longer available to you, and so you don't have to pay for an open ratings report. And so I just wanted to point that out to you. Next up is factor number 3, quality control. And you can see we're already on page 16 of 141. And again, this will give you a narrative about how to write up about your quality control efforts if you want to become a GSA scheduled contractor. Next up is factor number 4, relevant project experience. Again, we give you instructions for how you're going to tell us about your project experience, and so you can actually do that for us. Next up is, we're talking about the price proposal. Like I already mentioned earlier, there's 2 ways that you can prepare pricing. One of the ways is called what we call commercial sales practices. And what you'll do is you'll see a term here called most favored customer. Essentially, what this means is that GSA likes to see discounts that are equal to or better than your most favorite customer. So we're going to ask you who your most favorite customer is, and then you're going to tell us whether your discounts are equal to or better than what you're offering to your most favorite customer. And you're going to do that on what's highlighted down here at the very bottom, called the price proposal template. And it's just an Excel form that you're going to give us out and tell us the comparison between what you're offering to your most favorite customer and what type of pricing you're going to offer to your GSA customers if you were to do it that way. Next up, I might want to point out that if you are doing pricing, there's different ways that you can break out the pricing. For instance, like as you might know, GSA schedules applies internationally, so you can give us prices that either based on domestic or overseas. The other thing is if you do service contracts or provide services, you might have different pricing for whether the service is done at the customer facility or the contractor facility. And so these are just different ways that you can break up the pricing, and I wanted to draw that your attention to that. Next up is if you're doing services, also realize that you'll have to tell us if there's any professional compensation plan, like a profit sharing arrangement that you might have with your employees or people that work for you. You also might have to give us a statement about any uncompensated overtime. And then last but not least, if you have any non-professional positions, there's something called the Service Contract Labor Standards. It used to be known as the Service Contract Act, and this gives you instructions for how you tell us about how you're going to pay your non-professional positions. And then if I go to the next page, you can actually see the table where you have to tell us about your non-professional positions. And let me just point this out to you. Over on the left-hand side of the table, you're going to tell us what you call that position. In the center column, you're going to give us what the federal government calls that position. And then over here on the right-hand side of the table, there's something called the WD number, which stands for wage determination. And this wage determination is based on which county are you performing the work in. And you're going to give us that information. And I can show you how to find that information. It's available online, but we also have it available at the GSA.gov website. And I'll show that to you in just a little while. So like I said, we're already at electronic page 16 at 146. I'm not going to go any further because this is the end of the instructions. And so I always like to point this out is that when you are getting ready to become a GSA scheduled contractor, make sure you do spend some time on the instructions, and you'll find it on pages 1 through 11 of this solicitation file. And of course, there's a lot more information out there, but I'm not going to bore you with all the details right now. I'm just going to tell you the highlights at this time. So let me show you how you can find those forms at the GSA.gov website. What you want to do is come back to GSA.gov, the homepage, and over here in the upper right-hand corner, you might notice that there's a search box. So all you have to do is type in available offerings and just make sure it's plural. And when you do that, you'll come to this page right here. It's an index page. At the very top, there's a link here that says available offerings and requirements. So what you want to do is click on that link. And when you do that, you'll come to this page. Now, you might remember earlier I told you that there was a hypertext link within the body of the solicitation and other solicitation documents. When you click on that hypertext link, you're going to be coming to this page. That's just a secondary way of coming to this page. Let me scroll down and show you what's available here. You might notice that we have two groups of different ways that you're going to click on here. At the very top, there's something called solicitation attachments and templates. I'm going to talk specifically about this. What I have to do is open up each one of these gray shaded boxes with the plus sign, and I can actually go into it. And then a little bit later on, we're going to talk about the category-specific attachments and templates. And then you only have to click on the attachments and templates that apply to your particular offer. So let's go ahead and click on the first gray box over here on the right-hand side. So when I do that, it opens up this list of hypertext links. And so what you're going to do is, I always like to compare this to sort of like if you were going into a cafeteria. Remember the good old days before COVID-19 when we actually went into cafeteria restaurants and you would pick and choose your entrees and desserts and side dishes and stuff like that. That's the type of analogy that you want to think about here. And you're going to only pick out the hypertext links that actually apply to that. So you might notice that there's two Excel files over here at the very top. If you're just doing products, you're going to click on the products one. If you're doing just services and training, you're going to just click on the services and training one. So not all the files or hypertext links are going to apply to you. And so you might notice that down here, there's certain files that only apply to certain special item numbers. So if you're not doing any of these special item numbers, you can just ignore them. And then down here at the very bottom, you might notice that there's links here to the agent authorization letter if you want to use a consultant. And then at the very bottom, you might notice that there's a link here for the letter supply. And I just wanted to point that out to you. Let's keep on scrolling down and go to the next one. Here's 2 other links. Again, if you want to pick commercial sales practice format template, you would click on that file. If you're a large business, you're going to click on the small business subcontracting plan. If it doesn't apply to you, then you can ignore it. So let's go on to the third one. And the third one, this one's only for people that are providing non-professional positions. So this is all the reference files dealing with the standard wage determinations. Be real careful about that. You might notice that these files are over 24 megs. So don't print them out. If you print them out, you're going to probably destroy half a forest because you're going to, if I remember, some of these files are like close to 13,000 pages. So that's a lot of paper. So don't just use them as an electronic reference file, but please don't print them out if you don't want to, because they're quite large files. Let's go on down to the fourth link. And when you do that, then you get down to what's called order level materials, and I can talk about that a little bit later on. And then, like I mentioned earlier, another way that you can do pricing on a GSA schedule is something called transactional data reporting, or TDR for short. And this gives you the lowdown on how to do the transactional data reporting. I'm not going to go into greater detail, but I just want to point that out to you. So let's now go to the category specific attachments. So let me scroll down. When I do that, you only have to pick out the category specific attachments that apply to you. So in my example, I fit into the miscellaneous category. So let me see if there's any files there that might apply to me. So what I want to do is click on this check mark, this plus mark. And when I do that, I can see that it only deals with service pricing proposal. So if I'm only providing flags, but I'm not actually doing any services related to the providing the flags, then I don't have to do this. And so I can ignore that. If there were other files out here that dealt with products themselves, then I'd have to pick that up. And so that's something that you have to do. And so in this particular case, I don't have to do any extra paperwork. So let me show you how you actually start the paperwork. Once you gather all this information about how to become a GSA scheduled contractor, you actually have to start doing the paperwork. And when you do paperwork with GSA, you're going to do it electronically. Let me show you how to find the access to the electronic offer system. What you want to do, again, is come to gsa.gov. And again, what we want to do is scroll down to the very bottom. And then at the very bottom in the lower right-hand corner, you notice that there's a section called Tools. And then here at the very bottom, I've already had it highlighted. There's something called All GSA Web Tools. So I want to click on that. When I do that, I come to a page that looks like this called the Tools Overview. And this is a pet peeve of mine. It really doesn't tell you that the electronic offer website for GSA is actually in the section called Buying and Selling. But I already know that that's where it's at, so that's what I've highlighted. So I'm going to click on Buying and Selling. When I do that, I come to the Buying and Selling web page, and then right here near the center, I can see the web link for the eOffer eMod section, and what I want to do is click on it. When I do that, I come to the eOffer eMod page. You might want to bookmark this page or add it to your favorites because you're going to come back to this page over and over again. So if you don't want to go through all those intermediate steps that we just went through, you can easily just bookmark it, and so you can come straight to it. When you come to this web page, what you might want to notice is that there's 3 large boxes at the very top. And what you do is you want to read them from left to right whenever you're starting with the process. So you always start with the left, and on the left side is prepare an offer. If you want to see if you can get access to the system, what you want to do is click on the prepare an offer button. And if you get an error message, that just means that your computer doesn't have a digital certificate. And so you're not able to get access to the eOffer system. But don't fret. All you have to do is come down over here on the lower right-hand side in the Learn More About It section. And then all you have to do is down over here, I already have it highlighted. There's a hypertext link here that says digital certificates. And so what you want to do is click on that, and then you'll come to a page that looks like this. GSA already has 2 companies down over here on the lower left-hand side. You'll see that there's one called Adentrust, and the other one's called ORC. It doesn't really matter which company you go to. They both offer the same type of certificate. Now, this is the only fee that you have to pay if you want to become a GSA scheduled contractor. It's about $200 for a certificate. It lasts for about 2 years, and then you just update it every 2 years or so. So it's an ongoing cost of doing business with GSA, but it's a very significant part. You can go to either one of these companies. They're going to give you a form to fill out. You're going to answer that form. You're going to take that form to a notary public, let them witness your signature, and then you mail in that form to these companies, and then they will validate the information, and then they will send you either electronically or through a flash drive your digital certificate. And when you get that digital certificate, either electronically or a flash drive, you come back to the eOffer webpage, You upload it into your system, and then what happens is if you come over here and click on prepare an offer, it will let you into the system. So I'm not going to go any further on this because I'm getting pretty close to my time, and I know I'm standing between you and lunch. So, but I always like to end my presentation by pointing out that when I only have about an hour or so to introduce you to the GSA schedule system, all I can do is really just give you a quick orientation. I can't give you all the details. But I always like to end my presentation by saying, feel free to call me or email me, and that's what I'm here at. My role at GSA is to answer your questions and guide you through the process. So you're not out there by yourself. Feel free to call me, and I can help you. Just to give you, for instance, I had met a small company in Altus, Oklahoma, at one of these conferences, and I've been working with them for the last year or so, getting their offer. Of course, they have a lot of other things to do with it, but I think about a month ago or two ago, they finally submitted their offer to GSA, so they're on the process of getting their GSA scheduled contract. So I always like to use them as an example. I've done that throughout the years. There's always a lot of very good GSA scheduled contractors in Oklahoma that have gone through the process. And so what I'm going to do right now is actually escape from this and actually go back to the presentation. And so I can actually stop sharing my screen. And if you need to, just do that. The other thing I would like to do is, let's see if I can go back to it. Oh, there it is. And now you can see me again. Hopefully I can see you. I was going to say, I'm going to look at the chat. And I don't know if, unless someone wants to read any of the chat questions for me. And I can go through them right now if you want to. Go in and open up your mic if you need to.
We don't have any questions right now, Albert.
Okay. And I appreciate it. I see that I'm going to be meeting with several people over the next 2 days, and so that's great. And just remember, you don't have to actually meet with me during the matchmaking sessions for the next 2 days. Feel free to call me or email me, and I can start working with you. The other thing is, if you'd like to, I can also give everybody a copy of this presentation. I can send it to you as a PDF file, and so we'll do it that way. So
here's a question from Judy.
And I see there was a question about any quick tips on market research on the GSA website. There's several things you can actually do. One of the things that I didn't really talk about that is I always like to talk about the who's making money on GSA schedules. And there is a quick way to do that. There's something called the schedule sales query. And so you can actually find out who are the top contractors for a particular category. And so that will tell you who's the most successful. And then what you might want to do is use that information to go back to their price list and see why are they successful. Is it a matter of pricing? Is it a matter of service? Is it a matter of quality? What's the reason why people are going to them as opposed to someone else? And so that might help you in terms of doing it. And I can help you on that too.
What was that called again?
Oh, it's available at the GSA.gov website. It's known as Schedule Sales Query. And if you need any assistance on that, feel free to email me or call me, and I can help walk you through that. It's rather easy to do. Anyway, thanks everybody again. Like I said, I wish I was there in Norman, Oklahoma. I missed that going there. That would be so nice. But I'm looking forward to going up there real soon to Oklahoma as soon as we're allowed to do that. So anyway, I look forward to doing that.
Okay. Thank you, Albert. A round of applause for Albert and the GSA.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Albert. It's always a pleasure here.
Thank you.
I wish you were here too.